Hello, I'm Lizzie and this is Lizzie Reads, and welcome to my February wrap-up. Finally the February wrap-up is coming. It's going to be a quick one because it's been so long and I don't remember what half of these books are about, but I'm just going to fly through them and let you know what I read, and we can chat about more of them in details. I'll link any vlogs down below, things like that. But let's get into it. In total, I read 17 books. I bought quite a few books last month, so my TBR isn't... Sorry, let me just remove Hildy the sausage dog. I read 17 books, and this is the stack of physical books that I read. So, the first book I read in the month was The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I read this whilst I had COVID. I flew through it. I found it really, really easy to read. It's about a young woman called Lucy. She works in a publishing house. Basically, it's after a merger between two very different styles of publishing houses, and they're both assistants to the CEOs, and they have a deep rivalry. It's like the OG enemies to lovers, or hate to love romance, and I found it really fun. It had some really, really good scenes that I really loved. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I gave it 3.5 because there were some things about it I didn't like. A little bit of fat phobia in there. I think that's one of the things that brought my review down a little bit, but I can't actually remember what they were because as time's gone on I'm only thinking of the positives, but I know that there were things that I didn't like about it. The next book I read after that was The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I gave this 3.75 out of 5 stars. This is a story about, I think her name's Lara, and she is trained, she's one of the king's daughters, and she's been trained to be an assassin and to infiltrate the enemy's territory by becoming his wife and bringing the secrets down. And I liked this. It was a good fantasy romance, but for me personally, I would prefer a little bit more romance, so that's one of the reasons I didn't quite like it as much. It was very the fantasy story was more prevalent, but with hints of the romance throughout. But the characters are really cool and I really liked it. The next book I read and finished was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This is the second in the sort of companion series. They're not related in any way, shape or form. I just believe they're in the same world as House in the Cerulean Sea. And this is about a man called Wallace, and he has died and he is going to the crossing to go to the afterlife. And he's very much like Linus, if you have read House in the Cerulean Sea. It's a very similar story in that way. It's got a lot of similarities, but it's got some different characters, and it was really emotional and beautiful. And I did really enjoy it. Still, it felt very similar to House in the Cerulean Sea, but also very different. And I gave it 4.5 stars. I was going to give it a little bit less because of those similarities and feeling like it was just not doing anything new, but I sobbed at the end, so I had to give it a real a bit of a higher rating. Next I read Claimed by Cupid by Dana Isley. This is also an author that has had a huge amount of controversy since I read this. This is the second novella in the Nick and Holly series. There was a Christmas one and this was a Valentine's Day one. It's literally just a smutty age gap short novella, barely any plot, it's just smutty. And I gave this 3.25 stars because it was slightly better than the previous one, but I will not be continuing and reading the next installment in the series because I believe that Dana Isley plagiarises a lot of her writing, and I wasn't enjoying it that much anyway, so I'm just going to give it a miss. The next one we finished was Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. I was really looking forward to reading this and finishing up the duology. I gave this 3.5 stars. If you didn't know, this was a 1920s Shanghai Romeo and Juliet retelling. This is the second in the duology, and I liked this. I liked where it was going. I liked the setting and I liked the characters. However, the fantasy elements fall very short for me. I would prefer if they weren't there. And also, I don't know if I liked the ending. I would have preferred something a little bit more solid. I can't say any more without spoilers, but happy to discuss with anyone who wants to know more. Then I read Twisted Hate by Anna Huang, and this is the third in the Twisted series, which is a romance book series, and it follows a group of friends and just their like endeavours. The first one is a brother's best friend, the second one is royal bodyguard, and this third one is like hate to lover, best friend's brother. And do you know what? I loved this one. I thought it was really good. I really liked the romance, I really liked the characters, I really liked the like plot points, and I really liked the smart. I thought it was really good, some of the best in the series. However, I had to give it 3 stars because it was going on like 4 stars. It wasn't like I was dying out. It was probably going to be like a 4.5 stars, and then something happened. So obviously there was a third act breakup, and it was quite solid. Understandable the reason, the third act breakup, but the response that one of the characters had to that is something that I detest. I thought it was completely unacceptable, and it put such a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm kind of trying to pretend that it didn't happen, because I think that I really didn't like it, and it really ruined the book for me, which is really unfortunate. But I will continue to read Anna Huang's work, and I probably will read it again, like if I read the series again, because I did love it, and just sort of like pretend that it didn't happen. But it's really annoying because I don't like that sort of thing in this setting. Next, I'm going to talk about 5 books in one, and that is the Mindfuck series by St. Abbey, and this is a series of novellas about a serial killer who starts going out with an FBI agent who is investigating her murders. I can't say too much more about this, but there's a hell of a lot of backstory, and it's really interesting, really engaging, really fun, fast paced. Each one I flew through really quickly. I liked the like 5 installments of it. Again though, in the 4th book, which is kind of like the point of like, in the 4th book there is the third act breakup of sorts. The main character, who has been wronged, reacts in the exact same way that the other character reacted in Twisted Hate, and I hated that. I hated it. It was so unfair. It was awful, considering all the backstory. And I understand why it was done, but I just didn't like it. So I gave them all like a 3.75, and then they were starting to get 4.5 because I was really enjoying them. And then the 4th one got like a 3.75, and then, or is there only 4 of them, or is there 5? Yeah, so the 5th one was the best one, and it was really good, but I just didn't want it to like, yeah, I just didn't like the way that resolved itself. But it was like, okay, it was ignorable, it wasn't too bad. Next, I read The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. Now, this is a really interesting one because this is a chunky fantasy with a really interesting premise, and a plot is being told from 2 plot points. One of them is Kieran, and the other one is someone else telling Kieran's story retrospectively, but they're both talking about 2 different points in his life. Kieran's telling his story, and he believes it starts at point A, but someone says no, this story started way before that, and they're telling them in tandem. There's footnotes, the audiobook's really great. But I'll just tell you, I'll read you the first line of the it's not really a prologue, but it says, "Your Majesty, enclosed within is a full accounting of the events that led to the burning of the Capitol." And that had me hooked. I really liked it, but it was super confusing. Now, I read this not long after having COVID, and I think that that made it a little bit harder for me to enjoy, but I didn't want to stop because I knew if I stopped reading it I would not go back to it. But I did really enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to, me saying that I had COVID meant my brain was just still a little bit foggy, but I found it a little bit hard to grip, but I still really liked it and still had a lot of fun with it. So I gave it a 3.75 because if I had been slightly less confused I probably would have given it 4, but I'm really looking forward to the next in the series. The next book I read was The Traitor Queen by Daniel L. Jensen, and this is the sequel to The British Kingdom. I should have spoken about this earlier, but it was very much the same. It was a 3.5. I enjoyed it. I don't have much else to say. A bit too heavy on the fantasy. It's not as memorable as I would have liked it to be. The next book I read was The Coldest Touch by Isabel Sterling, and this is a sapphic YA paranormal, not super heavy on the romance, that's not the whole story, but it's got like a mystery element. One of the girls in this is a vampire, the other one is I think she's called the Oracle, and she has like the power to, when she touches people, she feels their death. It encompasses her and it's ruining her life. And she meets a vampire named Claire who says, look, I can help you. And there's a mystery, there's lots of killings and things going on in this. So I really like this. I will be continuing the series. I think it's going to be a series. But yeah, I gave this 4 stars because I had a really fun time with it. And it was really sweet. The next 3 books I will not be speaking about too much because I have a vlog coming later this week in which I do a deep dive into these. But I will just tell you that I read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, which is a ex-boyfriend's dad romance. I gave it 3 stars. Then I read The Replacements by Shay Sanders, which is about a woman who is leaving her husband and she needs to get a job to pay for her living because she has been a housewife for a long time, and I gave that 5 stars. Can't wait for you to hear more about it in the vlog. Lastly, I read Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy, and I gave this 3.25 stars. Yeah, so there's a romance vlog coming later this week in which I do a deep dive into loads of romances, but I'm going to leave, I don't want to spoil that vlog. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will chat to you again soon. Bye.